How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Sharks of Summer series. Sharks of Summer is a series I do around here where once a week, at least once, during the summer, I take a look at a shark movie, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I recently finished up the third in the Asylum's Megalodon franchise, and I figured since I watched them all, I should do a DVD collection video. Now, a quick introduction. The Asylum makes a ton of shark movies. The best franchise they have is obviously Sharknado, but then we also have things like the 2, 3, 5, and 6-headed Shark Attack movies, the Mega Shark Versus movies. We have a few franchises that have come from the Asylum, and the Megalodon movies are, without a doubt, their worst franchise. It represents the worst of the Asylum. A lot of the movies are padding with talking, and it's a bunch of technobabble, a bunch of talking. Now, strangely, these are generally considered to be a mockbuster of the Meg, and I'm guessing that the popularity of that franchise has enabled these to creep along, but for whatever reason they decided these are battleship movies. And in turn, we get real-life battleships, which is kind of cool to see a real battleship, but it's a lot of stoic military types just talking and planning, and they also have this weird perception of the military where they think the US Navy is somehow strangely underpowered. They take forever to kill these sharks. In some cases, they're literally just firing their guns over the bow of the ship like they don't have anything bigger. It's always a much closer battle than it should be. Like I said, these aren't great, but let's go ahead and cut to the close-up camera. I'll show you guys the DVDs and we'll do a collection video. So without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at the Asylum's Megalodon Trilogy on DVD. Let's bring the first one closer to the camera. We can see that it's simply called Megalodon with no subtitle yet, and we get a pretty decent little cover of this giant shark going to chomp on this submarine, which is reminiscent of something that actually happens in the movie. And we get these green lights, and there's actually a tiny little guy in there. I don't know if you can see him. Subtitle is Danger is Rising, and the credit across the top says Michael Madsen. Now, that is one reoccurring theme across these Megalodon movies, is they'll get one big-name actor that will usually play like a captain or an admiral or something, and yeah, it's usually, like a lot of people said, Madsen in this movie is kind of phoning it in. I can't say I disagree with him. Anyway, there's the spine, where we get the Megalodon from the cover, the Asylum logo there, and then the back is a pretty standard Asylum movie back. We get a picture and a quote from nobody. I always love seeing that. There's a quote, but then it's not attributed to anybody, it's just the studio saying it. And here we have giant-sized horror show in the tradition of Godzilla and Jaws. A lot of their quotes will compare them to other much better movies. And then a tiny little synopsis here. Basically, in this one, we get some Russians that are trying to intercept a US communication cable. When they drill it open, they accidentally crack open the surface and unleash the Megalodon. The US saves them, and there's this whole bit of, can I trust you? Tell us what you were doing down there, even though they basically already know. And of course, the shark coming in and chasing them. Like I said earlier, it's a whole bunch of talking. What do we do? How do we get the engines running right? A bunch of technobabble and a bunch of interrogating these Russians. It's not great. Crack it open, and the disc is the same as the front, and again, a very standard Asylum disc there. I love they don't pay the ratings board, so they put on their own warnings there instead, and we can see this has scenes of creature violence and some language. Anyway, let's keep this where you can see it, because I want you to see this in comparison to the next one. They did a sequel, Megalodon Rising, Too Big to Fail. I don't know why we're comparing it to Banks. And the big star is Tom Sizemore this time around. But look at that. There is the little sub again, and I think it might be the same image of the sub, just lighter, but the composition is very, very similar between these two. You see a shark going at the submarine, pretty much the same deal, and actually if we flip it to the back, we can see the quote on the back is almost exactly the same, but instead of a giant-sized horror show, a giant creature thrill ride in the tradition of Godzilla and Jaws. Yeah, well, okay, so the thing with this movie is it is very much like the first, and I mean almost a remake. I mean, the first one is still in continuity, but this one you get the sister of the girl from the first movie, and she's on her battleship, and no one believed her sister about there being a Meg, but then 3 Megs attack, and instead of the Russians, this time around it's the Chinese. And it's more or less the same plot, but we have 3 sharks now, so I guess it's slightly better. But the derivativeness does get you, because yeah, it's still the same thing. It's still a bunch of stoic military people, and it's just technobabble on a military battleship. And yeah, the movie's almost the same, the cover's almost the same. It's not great either. Diver on the back there. I don't particularly remember that scene, but I guess it was in the movie. These are kind of forgettable. And there's the bottom there. Now this one I do have the slipcase for. Slide it out. The undercover is the same as the front. And crack it open. The disc is the same as the front as well. And yeah, that's Megalodon Rising, the second one. Now, we have those two, and then we bring in the third and the newest one, Megalodon The Frenzy. This time around, Eric Roberts is the big star, and we get She's Back for Revenge. And yeah, we can kind of see these 3 covers almost being like a Animorphs morph effect. First we had the same composition with a different shark, and then we take essentially the same shark. If you look at the scarring on the shark, it is reworked to be a little bit different, but it's got to come from the same base photograph. But instead of the 1 shark in the sub, we have 3 sharks and a battleship. So, I mean, like the colors are almost exactly the same and everything, but at least we have a slightly different composition this time around. Anyway, flip it to the back, and the quote this time is a shark-fueled action frenzy, so at least that's a little different. And this one came out around the time the Meg 2 The Trench came out, and that one had like a cheesy Hawaiian theme to it, and they tried to mimic that on the back. And there are a few, and I mean a very few, murder vignette scenes where the shark chomps random people on the beach. That's not really what this one is. We don't even have a plot summary on the back anymore. But basically, you still have a military ship. A shark attacked them and they're limping along, but they're trying to save some scientist on a research station, which of course let out another shark, but that doesn't really matter because the sharks were kind of out anyway. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but basically, we still have the battleships, but that's like about 1/3 of the movie, and the other 2/3 are the scientist. It's still talking, it's still technobabble, there's more sharks, and we finally get away from the battleships, so I guess it's slightly better, but they're all still pretty much about the same. And slide it off, inner case is the same as the outer, and disc is the same as the front. So yeah, these movies get slightly better in tiny baby steps, but really, they are among the Asylum's worst. And you get things like the Mega Shark Versus franchise. That was slightly better. I mean, it still had padding, but at least you had 2 CGI creatures fighting. So this is not good. They're super formulaic, you know, almost the exact same picture and just random celebrities doing a bit part for some money. It's not great, but as long as the Meg franchise keeps going, the Megalodon franchise will keep going, and I guess that's just a thing. All in all, though, if you don't mind slow-talking movies, I guess you can watch them, but they're not a solid recommendation from me or anything. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. If you guys want to see more, I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Asylum Shark Movies playlist, where you can see me review a bunch of other Asylum Shark movies, and actually also do collection videos for Sharknado and Mega Shark Versus. So if you want to see more like this, that will be on the bottom. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.